So just to quickly recap for anybody watching this, all I have so far is an empty, basically an empty script file, some very minimal CSS, and hardly anything in our HTML file. We've just got this kind of container here. And inside of it, we've got a scoreboard and we've got some characters here. And what this gives us is just this. And we're going to try and create our own game, kind of a little bit based on Pokemon, but we're going to call this Stackamon instead. And the idea is that we'll have two characters. They will have some stats, and they will be able to kind of fight each other somehow. So we need to try and figure out what we need in order to get this to work. So obviously we need characters and we need a score. What else do you think we might need in order to get this to work? And we can try and make some notes to tackle this. So has anybody got any ideas for what we may need? Don't be shy now.
Will the scoring only be one when the player wins?
Could you speak up a little bit? I can't hear you.
When the player wins, is it only 1 point per win?
Okay, good point. Okay, so okay, well, let's imagine that both of our players have 100 points. So okay, so let's make some notes. So characters have 100 points, and whenever they do a move on each other, it maybe takes some of those points away, and then as soon as it gets to 0, there will be a winner. And that will be it. So, okay, so characters have 100 points. Characters take turns to do a move. Okay, first character to run out of points users. So if we look at what we've got here, so we've just got score and 2 characters. What else do we think we might need?
So your points are basically like an HP counter, right? Something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Do we think we might need some buttons in order for our characters to be able to take turns, maybe? Buttons to press in order to execute a move. Okay, so right, I want to pick 2 characters, but I want them to be characters from, or basically I want them to actually be students from Stackademic. So who doesn't mind me taking their avatar from Discord? Okay, so Arutharan's okay with it. I need one more volunteer.
I'm fine with it too. Yeah, feel free.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we've got Arutharan and we have Axe. So you two are going to be our characters. Now I just need to I need to try and grab your profile here. So I'm going to just take a small screenshot of this. And then, okay. Here we go. Cool. Okay. So let us see who wins. I will win. Okay. Well, it's going to be a battle between Aruthran and Axe. You are our 2 Stackamon today. Right. So, okay. So what what HTML element do we need in order to display these avatars? Anybody care to guess?
Sorry, what was the question?
So what HTML element do we need in order to display a picture?
The image tag?
You got it. There we go. So, right. Okie dokie. So let's put image, image source, alt. Let's just put character 1 for now. And then we'll grab that and we'll put that here. And now we need to take our 2 images and put them inside our file. And you're going to see my really messy desktop. So I'm trying to not show too much of it because it's a mess. Okay, right. So this is Axe. Oh, not Ace, Axe. In fact, do you know what? Just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to just put player 1 and player 2. Just a little bit more generic for now. Okay, so if I wanted to inject character data into these cards, so let's imagine that we have characters. What JavaScript data structure do you think we could use to store our characters? Amazing. Okay, yep. So Chantel says object. Okay, and Ruthlin also says object. So that's really good. In fact, you know what? I think if I leave this chat there, then if I make this bit smaller and I'll increase the size of the text, hopefully you can still more or less see everything that we need. Okay, so yeah, an object would be a really good way for us to store this information. We could do something like an array as well, but I think an object is going to be more sensible. What it may be, it could be that we have an array full of objects, and each object is a character. So let's go into our script.js and let's make something. We can call this characters, and we'll put it like that. Now we need to create characters. Okay, so for now, of course, we're just going to create 2. Can anybody remember from any of Piero's previous lessons some things or some types of data structures that we could use? Or maybe not data structures as such, because it would be an object. But can anybody remember another type of way that we could create something like a character? I'll give you a clue. So before 2015 or before ES6, typically we would use objects. But since ES6, there's another way that we can do this in JavaScript. Can anybody remember the name of what it is? So it's not var, no. So var is, I think you're maybe thinking of something else at the moment. So you're thinking about kind of var, let, and const. But there's another way that we can create an object, and it's by using a class. So classes exist in other languages like Java. I think they exist in Python and lots of other languages. They don't really like properly exist in JavaScript. It's this thing known as semantic sugar, which basically means it's an object, but there's like some not like nicer ways to be able to create these things. So anyway, what we're going to do is create a class. Yeah, exactly. So syntactic sugar. So we'll call this Stackamon. I have to remember how to make these myself now. Okay, so it should be something like that. I mean, the weird thing is I made a video like about classes and also about objects, but even though you may know something really well, if you don't use it for a while, then you just kind of forget. So, okay, so we're going to create something here. So what things do you think our characters or our Stackamon need? Like what kind of traits might they need, or what could be interesting? Anybody?
Well, I mean, we can start with HP, I guess, points that have to be deducted. Yes.
Yeah, of course, that'd be a really good one. Yep. Oh, and Smallowhite says name as well. Yep. So we definitely need things like a name. I have to remember how to do this now. It's something like that. It's telling me it's not. Oh, okay, empty constructor. Okay, so we need a name and points. Okay, so we could do a couple of things with points. I mean, we could give our Stackamon points that we decide. So, for example, I could say, okay, well, I want Axe to have 100 points, and I want Aruthran to have 1,000 points or something like that. Or we could make it so it's like randomly generated. So we don't know ahead of time how many points it's going to have. There's lots of different things we could do. So maybe what we could do is just in our constructor. Okay, so we could say this dot name equals name. Okay, so this shows us something already. So we've got this idea of, well, we've got a few things here that may be new to us. So we've got this idea of a class, we've got this constructor, and we've got this. So we've got a lot of things here. So I want to just put a question to you all first. Who knows what this is all doing at the moment? So these kind of, between lines 3 and 7, who feels confident that they know exactly what is going on there? And if you do, then I would love for you to tell us as well. So Chantel says blueprint for a character. So that's good. I mean, that is what it's doing. Can anybody understand what is going on inside of this constructor? Because we've put constructor, and then we've got name, and then we're assigning name to this dot name, and it feels like a lot of things are going on there. So is anybody able to express, and please do speak if you're feeling comfortable, to explain what's going on line 4 and 5? Okay, so Smallowhite says it's self-ref class with object. Self-referencing class with object. I mean, that is what it's doing. So I'll try and break this down a little bit more, just for all of us. So
you've created a class.
What I would say is this. Let's just
property.
We'll keep that as we have for.
Sorry.
Oh, yep. Oh, no. Please carry on.
I think there's a little bit of lag between what I'm saying and what's getting to you, because when I started saying that, it was. So what I was saying was that, from my understanding, you've created a class which is a blueprint, like someone was saying in the chat, and you've added one property to it, which is a name.
Okay, yep, that's exactly it. And then when we have this .name, these are kind of internal values, but typically these internal values are, so let's just say we had this .hp, but we'll call it energy for now, just so maybe it's a little bit easier to understand for anybody who isn't familiar with kind of, RPG terms and game terms and things like that. Typically, this is undefined. These values are undefined to begin with. But whatever is passed into this constructor is what we then use. So this is undefined until we say, okay, now let's take that name value from line 4 and pass it here. So let's just give you 100 HP for the moment. So what I want to explain a bit more is how, where do we even pass the name in? So if we had const character, if we want to use this class, we have to then go new Stackamon, and here we could then say Ax, and then that is how it will get that name value. So if I leave that blank, then you won't have a name because I've not passed anything in. Likewise, if I put Tony there, then the Stackamon I've created is going to have the name of Tony. So that's what happens. And you might think, okay, well, how come why do we have to do it on the constructor? Why can't we have something like that? Why can't we just have something like that? And with classes, you can't. You have to pass these in to this constructor here. You can see my linter is kind of complaining about a few things because this is not something you would do. You wouldn't pass a value there. You have to pass it into the constructor. Okay, so we've got a couple of things here. Now, what do we think our character needs at the moment? So far we've got name and we've got energy. Are there any other? Well, there's two parts to this question, so let's tackle the first bit. Do we think our Stackamon needs any other internal values passed into this constructor, or are we happy with just name and energy?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can always add more later, no?
Yeah, of course, we can definitely do that. Okay, so there's one thing we definitely need, and we need some moves. And we need to be able to use these moves as well. So what we could have are some functions inside our class. So outside of this constructor, but still inside of here, you do some moves. So we could, and there's a few ways that we can do this as well. So what I want you all to kind of pay attention to is just the more the thinking or the thought process behind how we would go about making something. And of course, there are plenty of different ways that we can do something like this as well. But we probably need something like a function that executes a move. So let's make something just called maybe just move or something like that. And we could, let's just return an empty string for the moment. But of course, we need some moves. So where can we get these moves from? We could do something where we create kind of specific moves for each Stackamon, but that would probably be a really complex thing for us to do for the moment. But a really interesting thing that we could do further down the line. Go ahead, Ax.
How about a user prompt?
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
No.
Okay. So I think that could be a good idea, though. There is something that you could do there where we could, the user could input something. What we would then need to do, though, is we would maybe need to create a certain set of prompts that the user can respond to. Otherwise, we would end up in a situation where maybe the user just types anything and we don't know what's going to happen, or maybe nothing happens.
Smallwood just suggested we could use buttons in the chat. I think that probably makes more sense.
Okay. So we could use buttons. Interesting. Okay. Smallwood, could you elaborate on this for me? Like, tell me a little bit more about your thinking. So, like, what kind of buttons do we have? What do they do? How does it work? Please feel free to speak as well if you're feeling comfortable. I mean, we have spoken before, Smallwood. You're facing an issue with your mic. Okay, never mind. So that is a good idea, though. I think ultimately we are going to need some buttons, though. We need our users to be able to press a button. What we can do for now is we're going to make something. Hey.
Hello. I was going to suggest why don't we give the Stackermons like special greetings? Like each Stackermon could have a special kind of greeting. It could serve as a move. They could greet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. I like that. Okay, so let's make greeting here. Okay, again, we'll just return an empty string for the moment, and then we'll start to fill these out. So, okay, yeah. So maybe when the Stackermon enters the stage, or at the start, they have some sort of greeting. Okay.
Hello, Sunil.
Hey.
Yeah. Yes, I'm already here. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I switched back to my phone. Actually, my laptop is having issue with the mic. Yeah. For button, like whenever one player's turn finishes, we can just blow a light on the button so that it indicates another person player's move starts, or other person's turn is to move the card or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. So so what we could do is maybe have two buttons. Like each character has a button, and maybe when it is their turn, that button is green or something like that. And then when it's not their turn, maybe it's red. Is that what you meant?
Yes, right. You got.
Okay, great. So, all right. So we'll write that idea down in here for the moment. Okay, so characters have a button, and the color indicates whether it is their time or not. Okay, great. And let me just bring the chat back here. Okay.
So you just write color the wrong way now.
I was wondering whether anybody would notice that. It's yeah, I don't. I guess I'm not even necessarily catering to an American audience right now. It's a global one, isn't it? But I don't know what to say. I've turned my back on my country, haven't I? So, okay. So, right. In fact, do you know what? Let's change that. Let's put a U in there. Okay, right. So, okay. So what I think we will do for now is let's make our move set really simple, and we will just make move return a number that is between 0 and 100. So really, really simple way to kind of execute this. Of course, it would be amazing if we had lots of different characters, lots of different moves, and all of this. But maybe this repository of code, which I'll make available, can be a basis for any of you to to expand on and kind of use in your portfolio, or however you see fit. Now, what I need to remember how to use is math.random, because just like Piero and just like myself and just like any coder, most of the time we know these things exist, but we cannot remember the syntax. And what I want to do is return a random number between 0 and 100. Okay, so I know it's math.random, but I know we need to give it something else. Okay, so getting a random number between two values. Okay, so this seems fine. Okay. In fact, we want an integer. This will just give us, this could give us floats or decimal point numbers, whereas I think it's going to be easier if we just have a, in fact, you know what? I can just put math.floor on it. Let's take that. Let's just see what happens first. So let's go into our console. Okay, so okay, so get arbitrary number. We don't need all of that. Let's just do. In fact, that doesn't even seem right. I don't think that's what we need.
Yeah,
maybe it is.
Arutran and Chantal have provided the syntax in the chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, so math.floor, and then, okay, times 100. Okay, amazing. Thank you, everybody. Let's just test that. Oh, my bad. It's capital M. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, there's a second one. Okay, so it seems to be giving us 0 every single time, so something's not quite right there. Let me just see if you've written anything else.
Maybe it's taking the minimum value every time. Minimum.
Where's it gone? Okay, let me just try that again. So, okay, so what if it's in there? There we go. That's my fault. It was because I was doing the times 100 outside of it. Okay, so great. So it's giving us that. So we've got our, we've basically got the contents that we need for our function now. So amazing. Thank you, Devesh. Right, okay. So let's put that here. Okay. Now, what we can do is let's create some greetings. Right. So, who wants to come up with some greetings or noises that our characters can make?
Well, an obvious one is Hadouken.
Hadouken. Okay, so we've got Hadouken. We've got Ola. These are some scary Pokemon, aren't they? Or Stackamon. Let's get 5. Let's have 3 more. So anybody else wants to type, who would like to type anything in to the chat or say it?
Yoga Fire.
Wait, so these are Street Fighters now. You're showing your age, Axe, and also mine.
Well, we can
because I know
also
all
do
of these.
Get Over Here if you want. If you want another game.
Which game?
Get Over Here.
Get
Games
over
of
here.
this.
Right. Right. Let's just put get over here. Right, okay, there we go. So we've got 5 greetings. And now what we want our greeting to do is pick one of these at random. So, right, I need to remember how to do this because we're basically taking the same, we're using the same premise here. We need it to be, between our index values of 0 and greetings.length. So let's try. Let me just try that. And we'll put it in here just to test it again. Of course, we don't actually want that here because that won't work. So let's just put 5. There we go. Great. Okay, so that's working. Now, of course, one thing we need to bear in mind is we want to put -1 on here. And the reason is because this array is working with a 0 index. So Hadouken is 0, Hola is 1, Yoga Fire is 2, and so on. So we put that on there because greetings.length is going to give us 5. So, okay. And then what we can do is put return this dot greetings, and then that's going to give us our index value. So whenever we do greeting, it will return a random one out of these 5. Okay, so we're almost at a point where we've got a game. So, of course, we need to make sure something happens when our energy runs out. So we need a way for our energy to go down. So besides just doing a move, and let's change it from move to fight. Oh no, let's call it hit. And of course, we need something to cause damage. Okay, so anybody got any ideas in mind for how we can take the hit from, say, character 1 and apply that number onto character 2 to reduce the energy? Has anybody got any thoughts for how we could maybe go about doing something like this? Okay, so -half of the hit. So that's not quite what we're looking for at the moment.
I suppose the obvious thing would be to store that in a variable.
Okay. So we're storing what the hit, the value of hit in a variable. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, we could definitely do something along those lines. So let's have a look. Smellohead says, or we can place greetings and damage as key value pair. I'm not too sure if that would impact on this. So just to clarify, greeting is literally just what the character says at the start. Hit is what will cause the damage, and when a character takes damage, it will reduce the energy.
Hi, Sunil.
Hey.
Yeah, I small here. If player one wins, in that case, he got a greeting, and player 2 got the corresponding value, means corresponding points will be directed from his energy. It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you mean hit and damage? Yeah, I think you're referring to hit and damage. By the way, Smallowed. So, greeting is just greeting doesn't cause damage. It's only hit that will cause damage. So, okay, so okay, so for damage, maybe we can call this receive. Okay, receive. Oh wait, received. That's not how you spell receive. There we go. Receive damage. Okay. Okay. So what we need to do is pass in a value here, and this value is probably going to be whatever hit was. Just thinking about what could be the best way to do this. If anybody has any other suggestions, please feel free to say them. Otherwise, I think the idea of storing it in a variable could be a good way to go about doing this. And it might be that the variable actually needs to sit outside of our classes. So
yeah, so I was thinking have a global variable and just subtract the hit from energy.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. So in fact, we're also going to need a scoreboard. So let's just put that there for the moment. Okay. So right. Okay. So let's call this. I guess damage, and we'll give it 0 to begin with. Oh wait, we don't need that to be a const because that's not going to allow us to update it, of course. So we'll go with that. Okay. So right. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now. So okay, so receive damage can just be where it takes in damage, and we can return this. Okay, what we can do is then go this dot energy minus damage or equals this dot energy minus damage. Okay, and then what we could do is maybe, well, there's another thing we need here. So, damage is already declared in the upper scope. Oh, that's not even a big deal. That's frustrating. I find that kind of linting really annoying. Okay, so let's just call it that for now. Okay, so that's a lot of damage. So, okay, so I don't know why I find that so funny, Chantel. Okay, so what do you think's potentially missing at the moment from what we've got here? So we're able to greet people, we're able to hit people, we're able to receive damage. Is there something that is missing?
We have to end the game and reset the game.
You got it. Right. So we need to check. We need to check the energy after every time a player receives damage. So we can do something here where we go, okay, if this dot energy is less than or equal to 0, and of course it's something like, game over. Else, maybe we can just do return. Maybe we can just return this dot energy. Okay, so yeah, so we need to do something to be able to kind of reset the game as well. So what this is making me think about is we might need another class to actually for the game itself, or an object or something. What we'll do for now is maybe we can skip that part for the moment. So what we'll do is get it to the point where the game ends, but we won't necessarily restart the game for the moment. We can just do it where maybe the player just refreshes the page or something for now. But we do need to signify if the game is over. So maybe what we could do is actually I'm not too sure.
How we are deciding who is winner?
Well, what we would do is the first player to have an energy of 0 is the loser. So if we have 2 characters and player 1 runs out of energy first, then player 2 will be the winner. Okay, so right, so game over. I'm just thinking how could we go about ending this game? We've got a scoreboard here. Maybe what we'll do for now is just we'll just console log. We can put this. So
maybe we can announce winner here only and end the game.
Okay, yep, that sounds good. I like that. So we'll just announce who the winner is. So we can put this dot name as lost. And then, of course, it would be better really to be able to announce who has won, but maybe we can try and tackle that in a moment. So, okay, so... okay, so let's see what we've got so far. So we need 2 characters inside of here. So let's take that, because we don't need to set them separately here. We can actually just put them inside our characters array. We need to do okay. Now, one thing we've forgotten about is our images. And this is why it would, in fact, what we can do then is we can do this dot avatar equals avatar, and we'll pass the avatar in. Now, of course, there are definitely more dynamic ways that you could do this, whereby, we have a list of lots of different characters. And maybe we just pass in, instead of passing in Axe like that as a string, we just pass in an object full of Axe's traits that have its own move set and all of these kind of things. I think that would probably be a way more fun way to do it. But for now, we're just trying to get a game to work. So second thing we want to pass in is the location of these images. So in fact, let me just change this now. It doesn't need to be player 1. We'll call it Rathran. And we'll call that Axe. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Chantal mentions alert as well. In fact, yeah. Do you know what? Let's go with alert for now. Okay. So here we need to pass in the location of those files. So in fact, let's just try doing that and let's see what happens. See if it does anything. Okay, so then scoreboard. In fact, maybe we don't even necessarily need that at the moment. Do you know what we can do? we can, instead of returning just this.energy here, we can actually update something in our HTML file. So we'll leave that as it is for the moment, but we'll put a comment here just to say, okay, update scoreboard on screen. And then we can return to that in a moment. So the next thing now I think would be good is for us to actually get something interesting in here, because of course still it's just this, there's nothing going on. So let's try and get our characters into it. Okay, so we've got this here, and of course we want to populate this information. So ideally, instead of it saying character 1, it will say axe or Aruthren. Has anybody got any ideas for how we can take this information, stack them on name and URL or image URL, and put them into our HTML file? Can anybody remember from any previous lessons? Okay, so Aruthren saying text content in a HTML. Great. Okay, so we've got some really good ideas here. Now, let's see. Okay, so one thing that, of course, we have discussed in a previous lesson is that we don't want to, when we want to grab HTML elements, we either use a class or an ID. Alexi's with us. Hey, Alexi. So as we can remember, we want IDs. So let's go player 1. Change that to player 1 there as well. And then ID 2. Okay. So let's figure out how to grab this information. Okay. So if we go to our file that we've got here, our screen, can anybody remember the selector that we need to use in order to grab an ID? We can also create an element. Yeah, that's a good point as well. We could definitely do something like that. But for now, let's say I want to grab this ID player 1. How would I do that with HTML? I mean, with JavaScript? Can anybody remember? I'll give you the first bit. So it's document dot something. Okay, so we've got, yep, get element by ID. So that's definitely a good way we can do it. Another way we can do is query selector as well. I tend to prefer query selector because it means that I don't have to, like, I can use query selector for everything. I can use it for HTML elements, classes, and IDs. Whereas get element by ID, you can only use with IDs and so on. And there might be occasions where you want to grab certain things for whatever reason. So query selector works, and here we can do ID. So that's the hash symbol, and then player 1. Let's just see if that actually grabs anything. And we can see it does. It grabs our element on the left. And I'm just going to take a moment to have a sip of water. How's everybody getting on with this so far? Is any of this kind of just like going completely over your head? Okay.
No, this is great so far, Sunil. I mean, I've missed quite a few lessons, but I'm having no trouble following you at all. So,
amazing! Thank you. That's good to hear. Okay, so right, we've got our query selector here. That seems to be working, and we can see that when we do query selector, it brings up this card, and then we've got all of this information in here as well. So how can we get all these other bits? So let's just say I do card equals that. I've got card. Like, can we do other things? Can we get the children maybe? Can we do something like card dot? Well, let's just see what comes up with children. We've got things like this. And we can see it's bringing up our H4, our image, and our P tag. There's quite a few different ways, of course, that we can do things to grab different elements. But we could do something like card.children. And then because we know that the second element is the image tag, but of course we're using 0 indexing. So we do start from 0 instead of 1. If I do 1 there, that should give me the image tag, and we can see it does. Okay, so now we should be able to do something like dot source equals, let's just see if that works. I don't think it's going to work just like that, but we'll try it. Oh wait, there it does. Okay, even better. I thought I might need to put a backslash somewhere. Okay, so we've got a little bit of an idea of what we need now. So we've got that bit. Now, that also means that we could do something like 0 dot inner text equals X, and we can see it updates the bit there as well. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now, but of course we want to do this dynamically. We don't want to just be typing things in. We want it to just, do it, like figure it out. But we've got the bits that we need. So let's go back into our script. And maybe let's make a function that is something like start game. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to keep that there for a moment. Oops. And we'll put inner text there. Okay, so, right. So let's also make it possible for us to even start the game. And for that to happen, of course, we need a button somewhere. In fact, you know what? Instead of stats, let's put energy or HP. In fact, energy. And then that means we're going to also need to update our energy. So whilst it's fresh in our mind, let's just grab that as well. And we know that that is the energy bit. Okay. Right. So let's just quickly create some button, and we'll put it, well, no, we'll put it at the bottom. Button. Start game. Okay. Now, can anybody remember what we need to do to actually hook this button up to that function that we've created? Hafiz, sorry, I've only just caught up with what some of you were saying. So, right, okay, so let's see. So you said some bits were going over your head. Which bits are you referring to? Have you just joined us as well? Okay. Right. Sorry about that. Just someone came into the room. Okay. So yeah, Hafiz, I don't know if you can hear us, but as Act mentioned, you're welcome to use the mic. or not. So okay, so we'll go back to what we were talking about then. So yeah, so Rach mentions event listener and Grace mentions on click. So event listener, we could do something where it's kind of like on load, start the game, but we wouldn't actually even need the button then in that case. Whereas as Grace has mentioned, yep, on click, that would be the right way. So we could do on click. And then we could do something like start game. I think it's something like that. I can't even remember myself, to be fair. Let's try it first and we'll see what happens. So, and in here, we'll just put console log game started. Okay, that's great. So it looks like the button's working and we can see it says game started. Okay. So that's cool. So we've got that bit. So what we need to do is then take our 2 characters that we have and apply that information onto our cards. So let's just go back to our index and we can see here what we're looking for is player 1 and player 2. So I'm just going to grab that. And when we start our game, what we need to do is take the information for our characters and add it into the HTML. So we can do document.query selector, as we saw a moment ago. We've got player 1, and then we'll also do player 2. Okay. I put card, but let's instead let's call it player 1. Player 2. And then instead of card, we'll put player 1. And let's have a look. So is there some way to style the default alert message or create our own custom messages? So Aruthan, which bits are you referring to? When you say the default alert message, do you mean that? Oh, actually, wait. Are you referring to like just the literal kind of alert button that appears? Yeah. Okay. So you can't style that. That will just be the default, the way the browser shows it. But what you could do is imitate or mimic that kind of thing. So yeah, as Devesh mentioned, you could use a modal. That's exactly what you would do. You would just create like a HTML element that just appears on top of everything. Yeah, I'll let Devesh kind of explain that to you further for now if you choose to. But alternatively, I would just suggest maybe Googling modal or like HTML modal or something like that. Think of it like this, if it helps. That alert is a modal. It's something that just appears on top of everything else. And you can create that with CSS and HTML. So you can make something that acts like a modal, or acts like an alert, I should say. Not to confuse acts with acts.
Yeah, I was kind of thrown off.
Okay, so we've got our 2 characters here. Okay, so this needs to be what is it again? Oh, we've got characters here, haven't we? Okay, so characters 0, because it's 0 index, of course. So we're grabbing that first one, and then we want the name, avatar, and the energy. So let's just copy those for a moment. I'm literally just copying them so I can see them. That's all, though. So we'll just comment that out. So okay, so this is let's make this easier to understand. This is the name. Oops. What am I doing? That's name. That's avatar. And that's energy. Okay, so that'll be dot avatar. Is it dot this dot avatar? No, it's just avatar, isn't it? Dot. Oh, sorry, no, name. Avatar. And energy. And then we can do the same here. By the way, as I'm writing this, can anybody see anything that's like not a best practice about what I'm doing at the moment? Repetition, exactly, yeah. So I'm doing something that is not very dry. And dry is an acronym, which is short for do not repeat yourself, or better yet, don't repeat yourself. What I'm doing is wet, which is write everything twice. So yeah, as you mentioned, I could do something like a loop, which is what Chantal and Ruthven have mentioned. I could do something to just loop through the information. So there's something there that we could do to optimize this. Now, for now, maybe it works okay because we've just got 2 characters. But can you imagine maybe if we did something where there's like 10 characters involved or something? We would want to do something where we just loop through or something like that. So for now, this is okay because we've just got 2 characters. But I wouldn't say this is a sustainable approach because you would need to make something that is a little bit better. So, right, let's see. So we press start game and it's saying cannot access characters before initialization. So let's figure out what we've done wrong here. Okay, so we've got characters and we've got characters here. If anybody can see something that I've done wrong, please do let me know. Okay, so const or let. Well, I mean, it shouldn't really make a difference at this point because the reason why it should be okay is because we've used const, but we're adding the data in at the same time. So it's not like we're adding it in later. I wonder whether it's maybe the class should be above this, maybe. We'll try it. I don't think that's what will fix it, but we can try it. In fact, it is. Amazing. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense, I guess. It's because we were okay, maybe it was referring to our code had even seen the class. Okay, so that's great. So as we press this, it immediately inputs this information here. So let's just close these off for a moment. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is for these to actually be able to fight or battle. So maybe we need some sort of button in there that responds to it. So inside here, let's do button. Okay, so on click. Right, now this is going to be something that we need to think about. How can we make our how can we make this function here, for example, use this player's moves and not just well, it needs to use that person's moves. Can anybody think of a way that we could do something like that? So it's a little bit of a confusing one. Okay, so right, what we can do is on click. Okay, so what we can do is take the on clicks from them and add something here. So let's grab that. It's called hit. We could put 3 here now. If anyone's unsure why, it's because we've just added another element inside. But I need to check how to do this, because essentially what I want to do is add an on-click function dynamically into it. If anybody already kind of knows how to do this off the top of their head, then please do let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to use Google to think about it. So let's put add button function JavaScript. That's not exactly how I want to do it. So let's put, yeah, how to create a button in JavaScript dynamically. Maybe that can also work. Maybe something like set attribute. Well, let's see what comes up here when we do this. So maybe here is where we need to do something like event handling. Let's see what comes up in attributes. Okay, let me just see if anybody's writing anything. Oh no, okay. So I think we can do something here where we do like an event handler. So add, I can't even see the text. Where's it writing it? Where's it gone? I have to remember whether this is even the right way to do it. Characters dot 0 dot hit. Please do let me know if that's even the right way, because I can't remember off the top of my head. So we are about to find out there, hopefully. So let's just do console log hit. Okay, right. So it's telling me that that's not correct. So that's good. At least we already know that bit now then. So, okay. So add event listener. I'm pretty certain that's what I've written. Event handler, silly me. Event listener. Okay, cool. So we can see the hit is going in there now. So, cool. Thank you, Odothran. Okay, so we're closing in on having a game that works now. So the next thing we need to do now is actually do this receive damage thing here. So we need to link these two together, this hit and receive damage. Now, one way that one way that Axe mentioned before was using an external variable, and we could do that. Or what we could do is do something such as just wrapping value in there. So hit just does that. Or to make this a little bit cleaner, what we could do is, or easy to read, I should say, is do do damage equals that. Just do damage. It's going to complain. Oh no, it's not going to complain because we removed that other damage. So far, does this bit make sense? What I've just done here? Is it not self-damaging? Yes, it is, isn't it? That's a really good point. I've completely forgotten about that bit. You're absolutely right, Chantel. So that, in other words, doesn't work because it's, you're absolutely right. It's self-damaging. So ignore what I just said because I'm an idiot, clearly. So let's go back to what we had before. Okay, so what we need to do then is, let's put that right. So let's still have damage here. Oh, 8 damage, and then we will return. Right, we need to return. I mean, we could just say this let damage here. Okay, so let's just put this as hit damage. Underscore on it. Underscore is just kind of a semantic way for it to say this is like a private value. It doesn't actually make it private. It's just something you'll see a lot in code. And what we need to then do is go damage equals hit damage, and this, of course, needs to be right up at the top.
Sorry, can you repeat that about the private thing? Didn't quite follow you there.
So you see on line 16 where I've got hit underscore hit damage.
Yeah.
It's a convention that you see sometimes where coders, if they have a value like a variable inside of something like a class, but that value shouldn't really be used like globally. Sometimes
okay.
they'll just put it. Yeah, they'll just put an underscore at the beginning, but it's literally just it's like a convention. It doesn't actually make anything private or whatever.
Gotcha.
Okay, so why is that trying to wrap itself like that? There we go. Okay, so that should be fine. And then we can just do... right, okay, so we've got... okay, so what we need to do, though, is every time... So okay, so the curious thing about this is what we need to happen is every time a hit is made, we need to then apply that onto the other person. So we need to make sure that receive damage for the other character happens as well, which is a little bit of a curious one. So we need to figure out how to make that happen. So let's just all right, let's just for the moment alert hit, no, alert damage. Let's see where we're at now. Okay, so we can see Axe has caused 9 damage, and then Eruthran is oh wait, is that one not set up? 67 damage. Let me just check something. Maybe I've set that up wrong. Ah, my bad. Wait, I didn't change the listener there. Okay. Do you know what? I actually think the instead of having that button, I think Rachel's idea of having an event listener that just does it on load would be a better way to do it. Let me just grab something because I had something from here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's go into our script and just at the bottom, we can do... Hey, everybody, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, can you hear you? Fine.
Awesome. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happened, but so like both of my internets went down, like the home one and my mobile one. That was really frustrating. So I think it sounds like some of you are still with us. So that's useful at least. I just want to make sure you can all kind of see where we're at. So hopefully it recorded everything as well. I really hope it did. Does it? Oh, actually, yeah, it says it's still recording. So
yeah, it says that it's still recording, so the recording should be fine, I hope.
Okay.
We would suck to lose all of this.
I know, right? That would be horrible. I'd be so frustrated. Okay, so what we'll do is, because I think the more we work on this, the more I'm seeing like lots of other things that we could potentially add. So let's just do one final thing and then we'll end it there for now. And then we can return to this, like, you know, in the next few days or whenever, and kind of just make it look a little bit nicer as well. So we're just going to add the event listener so that it loads and just loads the game up straight away rather than us having to click a button. So it should be that we have something like that, but I'm not sure why it's not doing what I wanted it to. So let me just change that to that. And then now let's do start game. Let's see if that works. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's doing it now. So that's great. And then we've got these hits here. So the next thing that we will need to do is figure out how to actually make it remove points from one another. I've got two options. The first one is either we Oh, you're saying you can't see the screen either. Oh, of course you can't. Sorry, I'm not even sharing the screen. It really threw me off.
That's all right. It's a pleasant face to look at.
What just happened? so let me share the screen again. Okay, so hopefully you can see now. This is all I did. So before we had our button, which was this here. So before we had on-click start game, but I've now removed that and we've replaced it with this event listener that we have here of onload, just run the start game function, which is this function we've got here, start game. So that's all we have. Okay. So, okay, can you play the game once? So let's see who wins. Okay, so the only thing is we're not actually reducing scores. So we could just push ahead and get this bit to actually work if we want. So let's do that. Hopefully it'll only take us about 5 more minutes, 5 or 10 more minutes anyway. So when we press hit, what we want it to do is take this number that we can see that's on being alerted. Oh no, you can't see the alert, can you? Because I'm only sharing the tab. Let me share the entire window instead. Okay. So when we press this button, you can see here we've got 25, but we need to take that value and then remove it from the other character. So we're updating damage, but then we need to run this receive damage as well. So what we could do is something such as whenever this button gets pressed, remove the value from the other character. Okay, so how could we go about doing that? Well, what we could do is do something in, actually, no, that's not going to work. I have an idea, but I'm wondering whether anybody else has one. Does anybody have any ideas as to how we could take, so what we're doing at the moment for anybody who's not quite following along is whenever, say, player 1 does damage, we're updating this value here at the top with the amount, and then we need to remove it from the other character. So does anybody have any ideas as to how we could do this? By the way, you don't need to apologize about talking about unrelated things. It's okay. I mean, I disappeared for a few minutes and then was trying to teach you without even sharing the screen. So don't worry. This is a casual lesson anyway. So I'm guessing nobody's got any ideas. I'm hoping you can all still hear me as well. Okay, cool. So how can we remove damage or add damage to the other character, I should say?
So how, sorry, I'm kind of lost. How is the energy, where is the energy being stored? How is that being counted, rather?
Well, at the moment, it's just here. So both characters start with 100. But then as the, say,
okay, so
yeah,
it's just the property in the class as of now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So basically, we just need a way of deducting whatever the damage variable generates from energy.
Yeah, exactly. But the mistake I made earlier, as one of you pointed out, is I was trying to apply the damage to myself whereas I want to apply it to the other character.
Hey, whatever makes you happy.
So there's a really kind of like a dirty way we could go about doing it, which is, well, let me just put let characters up here. Is I could do something like actually, no, that's not even going to work. That would be stupid. That's just not a good way to teach you how to code either. So let's ignore that bit. Let's just put that back wherever it was. Who has some thoughts?
Well, I mean, maybe for simplicity's sake, we could just use another global variable. I know that's probably not best practice, but it solves the problem for now.
Right. Okay. So, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, we can certainly do this. So, I mean, the one. Do you know what? There's a really important thing as well. Sometimes when it comes when you're just coding and you're like trying to build something, often at times, it's good to just get something to work and then refactor it and figure out from there and improve on what you've done. So we don't always need to try and create the perfect solution from the beginning, because that can sometimes hinder your own productivity as well. So, okay, in this case, let's go with scoreboard, and we'll place it like that. In which case, then we could even get rid of energy there. Oh no, I don't know. That feels really bad though as well at the same time. I'm not too sure if I like that. No, I feel there needs to be a better way to be able to do that one bit. Okay, so right, do you know what? Okay, for now, let's just we'll do what we were saying a moment ago, but it won't be our final solution. Bad choice of words. Should not be saying that. I mean, it's just not it's not the best way to do it. But okay, so we've got 100 and we've got 100 here. So whenever we do hit, now we need to take it in turns, basically. Oh no, I really don't like that one bit. Okay, do you know what? You two wanted to see who wins the first game. We'll just add the values up. Okay, so so it's the first to go down from 100. So let me just make sure you can see everything in the screen. Yeah, you can. Okay, so we've got Axe is on 100. Oops, did not mean to press that. Arutharan is also on 100. Okay, so Axe has caused 61 damage. Wow, okay. So that brings Arutharan down to 39. Okay. Arutharan has caused 45 damage. So that brings Axe down to 55. Oh, and Axe has caused 49 damage, which brings Arutharan down to 0. Okay, so okay, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, Axe has won the first inaugural Stackamon battle. And okay, so the next things we need to do is make this. Well, firstly, make the point system work. And then secondly, I think we can start to do things with like making the CSS look a lot nicer, maybe do some effects and things like that. But hopefully this lesson's just given you an idea of like how you can start with nothing and just start to build something with kind of just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or in this case, mostly just JavaScript. And you've seen a little bit about things like DOM manipulation, storing values, you know, kind of using objects and things like that. So yeah, hopefully it's something that was of use in some way. So thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate that as well, because this really has just been kind of done on the fly without any preparation, which is actually, it's a little bit more difficult than you'd expect, really. Like, a lot of time and effort really does go into preparing a lesson, and to kind of just start from nothing is something.